Well, it's about time, but we have a Specialized Tarmac SL8 S-Works in the workshop. Let's take a look. Now this is actually the ready to paint one, but it's not quite ready to paint, but it's the one that essentially is as light as it gets. Okay, here we go then. This is a size 54 and immediately it obviously feels very light, like all frames in this sort of category do. So this is, they call it the ready to paint, but it's not completely raw like you would get one of the time frames. There's actually a coating on here, but it's very, very thin. The reason I can tell is because when you do look at things like the brake mounts here, you can actually just run your fingernail and you can feel a layer of paint. And also the finish is just a little bit too good for just completely raw carbon. So hopefully the finish on this is slightly UV resistant as well, because the owner wants to keep it like this as much as they can. There are some chemical finishes that you can do on there to keep the UV coating on, and we're definitely going to recommend some of them to them. But what is interesting, that the paint or whatever they used is thin enough that you can actually see the carbon layup. So around here you can see there's a piece around here that's cut out here. Laying up layers of prepreg carbon is literally like doing papier mâché. So they've obviously put all these pieces in place to try and keep the weight down, but the strength and the stiffness up. So you can kind of see how Specialized have worked out how to lay things up. It also means if there are any surface voids that they shine through instantly. But the nice thing is you don't have any paint overspray to really worry about. So just taking a look around here, this is all beautifully smooth and beautifully well finished. On the inside, you can feel like there's a slightly waxy coating on the inside, so some sort of releasing agent being used for the compression from the inside. The inside is so beautifully smooth, like I can happily run my finger around all of this and there's no sharp edges, loose fibers, anything. It's actually a beautiful, beautiful finish. So this just has stickers on because the idea is you'll peel the stickers off and then get it painted, and in the box there comes with another sticker set as well. Thought we'd sit down and have a chat, because to me it raises an interesting question. Is when you go for the lightest weight possible, it's easy to imagine that there's some sort of magic recipe that Specialized have that no other brand's got access to. And in fact, a lot of this weight saving actually just comes from removing material. And the decision that you have as a buyer is how much removal of material are you willing to sacrifice to get that weight down. Because whenever you remove something, you're going to be sacrificing either durability or stiffness. And you can see that being played out in this frame. So the obvious one on this one, I have to say, is the paint. Obviously this is the raw finish with just a very slight coating. So you're obviously sacrificing some UV durability in there as well, or maybe you are going to choose to paint it, in which case it's instantly going to be 100-ish or so more grams heavier. But other things really strike me. One is this whole bottom bracket area is very small and slender. And I'm just going to put up some B-roll of other bikes that we have in the shop right now that are on the same sort of benchmark as this sort of frame, that have significantly wider, stiffer looking bottom brackets. It's hard to imagine that just a higher modulus carbon fibre is really compensating for all that additional material in the bottom bracket. And you can see that play out. It doesn't take much to give this a bit of a squeeze to see the amount of flex that's coming from these stays. That's slightly terrifying, to be fair. I'm going to compare that to one of the time bikes, which is probably the stiffest bikes that you'll ever come across, which is completely on the opposite end. It's almost a steel bike, but the difference is quite substantial. And then when it comes down to things like durability, this BSA bottom bracket, a very small aperture, but also just the thinnest slither of aluminium threads have been pushed into here, adding hardly any weight whatsoever. I haven't tested to see if this is perfectly aligned yet. I'm going to assume it has been because it's S-Works, but we'll do that in the build. But just for comparison, this is a Lux 785. I'm just picking this up because we've got it to hand. Don't read too much into it, but this is a full aluminium sleeve, T47 internal, say what you want about it, but you know, this is what you'll get for a more durable, definitely aligned bottom bracket, because if it isn't aligned, then we can just machine it. There's loads of stuff in there. And if you are the sort of person that rides in all weathers and things corrode and get a bit messy, then we have something really solid that we can machine, clean, sort out, you know, and it's going to be a good, durable solution. Now, if I just come back to that, you might be willing to sacrifice that level of durability. But if these start to corrode, then they really don't leave us much to work with. So it's like anything, you buy something very, very high performance, it just needs more careful maintenance and more regular maintenance. Just get those bottom brackets out a little bit more frequently than you probably would, make sure everything's kept clean, get all that moisture out of there, put some fresh grease in, and it's probably going to be absolutely fine. But it's just going to need a little bit more TLC from the owners. On this particular bike, the same goes for the threads on the rear axle. Remember, there's just a slight aluminium sleeve that's been pushed into the frame, and then a very, very lightweight Mech hanger on there. And again, in contrast, the Mech hanger on something like the 785 is a two-piece Mech hanger where the threads are on the second piece, and it's actually sort of clamped into the frame. So if anything does go wrong with that, slightly ham-fisted moment in the middle of a race, or at the side of the road when it's wet and you cross-thread it or whatever, then we can just take the whole thing off, put a whole new one on, and you've got a much more durable long-term solution that a bike shop can fix really, really easily. It doesn't require major frame surgery to put a problem right like that. So yes, now you're going to want to know the weight difference. This comes in at a little over a kilo, at 1,030 grams, which is sort of fairly typical for a frame costing around the £2,000 mark. The S-Works in a 4,750 pound frame, just 710 grams. Now, when we weighed that, we made sure that the rear axle was out and all the seat clamps were out, and we got it to be as similar as possible between these two. But that is incredible. So working it out, that's about £7.80 a gram or something crazy. And I had to have a hunt around, but to put that in perspective, the weight difference is the same as a Pirelli P0 30mm tubeless tyre. So not to be sniffed at. If you're trying to build the ultimate lightweight bike, whether it's from any brand, you're going to have to buy a lightweight frame to start with, because you're already at a disadvantage if you don't. But then you really need to make advantage of all the lightweight components to really get the weight down. If you're just trying to achieve a certain weight on a budget, then sometimes that 320 grams can very easily be made up with wise choice of components as you go. It all looks to be done very, very nicely though. And just again, running my finger around the inside of this, a couple of little sharp edges, but generally speaking, very, very beautifully finished. Slightly unusual on the front Mech mount. So again, a little weight saving thing that they've done is it's actually bolted on, so you can completely remove it and run this as a one-by setup, which is definitely a big plus. But also there's no rivets in the frame. This is actually, if you look down here, there's actually a plate. So if you undo these bolts, that plate's going to fall down, and trying to get all that back together again will be an absolute pain. And I think I'm going to have to do that because the DI2 routine comes in the back of here. So I'm going to have to be very, very careful to remove this in a way that I can get the cable through, but not in a way that the inner plate inside the frame falls down. I've got to try and shove something down there to get it all to work again. But generally speaking, I am really, really impressed by the quality of that frame. It is exactly what you'd want to see from a frame costing 4,750 quid. So looking at this, I'm loving these brake mounts. They've actually masked these off a long way down so that where the paint is a long way away from the face, and they look beautifully flat and finished. All the areas where the axle interface with the frame look absolutely smoothed off and flush. And like for me, I love seeing the score marks, because it shows to me that someone's gone in there with some sandpaper or a grinder or whatever it is to make sure that any sort of flash in or a little bit of paint is absolutely removed and you get a perfectly flush surface. So for me, seeing little scratches on these surfaces is normally a good thing, because that tells me that someone's gone in there and QC'd it properly and checked it. Again, around here as well, you can see the scratch marks where someone has gone in there and removed burrs and that sort of thing. And the cable exit point here, even that is actually beautifully well finished. The actual tube itself looks like a perfect uniform thickness of the spool there. Maybe arguably slightly thicker here than here. So white on the inside, so maybe there's some evidence, some fiberglass in there. I don't know, I'm just speculating really. But generally speaking, what I'm most concerned about is where things are going to sit, where bearing surfaces are they perfectly smooth? And that looks very, very good. So where the compression is, that's the bit that I want perfectly smooth and no burrs on. So looks nice. Seat post, pretty standard. This is some titanium hardware, and they've just got a very, very small drill bolt here. So if you are trying to adjust your saddle, you're going to have to get something very, very small in there, like a 1mm Allen key, to turn that bolt in order to get the saddle tilt right. So, and then down here we've got a whole bunch of fixtures and fittings to go with this seat post. There's this really quite clever little clamp mechanism that will hold a Di2 battery, and that interfaces with the bottom down here to hold a battery. We have a little shroud that will go over this and just cover up the bolt. This is the little seat clamp bolt interface. Again, they've even gone to the hassle of drilling this out here as well to sort of save some weight. And this actually looks like it's a CNC'd part. You can see the CNC machine, so rather than being molded aluminium. And then there's a high friction area here to try and keep everything in place. So very impressed by the build quality of even that seat clamp post. And a precise 6.2, no more, no less, Newton meters on that on a 4mm bolt. What else you get with this is interesting because there's two different types of handlebars. You can either fit the old SL7 stem, and it's got all the various face plates for that, for the SL7 stem. It's also got the face plates if you want to fit the one piece as well. So it comes with two different setups for that. And it also comes with two top covers, again, a bit like the Blade, where you've got, once you've committed to where you want to cut it, you can put this over, and that covers up all the bolts, making that lovely, beautiful flat surface. Or if you're not ready to commit, you can put this cover on, put a couple of spacers on top and get to the bolts here, and then come back and cut it another day so you can get that nice flush finish. Really, really big compression bung. Absolutely love that with a QR code to install instructions. I think this is going to be critically important. And interestingly, a special front brake mount as well. So looking forward to getting into the instructions and seeing the relevance of that. All in all, I have to say, very, very impressed. This obviously doesn't come with a handlebar setup of any description, but it does give you the option of either having a two-piece or a one-piece. So before we get on with the build, let me ask you the question. This is what the customer wants. This is their brief. What would you do in this situation? This is a very, very keen athlete, but he works offshore, spends 2 weeks at sea, 2 weeks back on shore. When he comes back, he just wants to pick up his bike and ride it and ride it and ride it and ride it. Lives in North Wales. It's wet. It gets out in all weathers. So he wanted us to come up with a build that was going to be relatively lightweight, super reliable, super durable, and fit that spec of come back from sea, want to get on a bike and ride hard for 2 weeks, put it away, go away for 2 weeks, come back. So this is what we've done, but what would you do? So I've had to come down to the main workshop. We've got a bit of corrective surgery to do. Now, first of all, installing the crankset. This is just using a standard Shimano road bottom bracket, but this should really be a much better fit than this. So we're okay through the first one, but then it's a really stiff fit to get through. So not that impressed with the alignment on this. So the threads on these are actually really good, but what I'm hoping is that just by opening up the threads a little bit more, clutching the straws a little bit, we might just be able to improve the alignment. I don't know. Okay, a couple of quick runs in. It looks like we've got a facing issue, which hopefully is the alignment issue, and hopefully it's not a left and right. So hopefully it's just this sort of movement that's misaligning. So we can definitely try and fix that. So let's see if that improves the situation and hope that it's not too much of the sort of the left and right alignment that's the issue. To give us half a clue of how we're getting on, let's get some dicam on here. So I've just backed this off after a pass, and you see we've still got that part of blue dicam here. So we're just going to keep going until all that dicam disappears. Let's see if this has made any sort of difference. Oh, well, yes. That went straight through. Okay, I'm sort of glad we did that. I think that's definitely improved the situation a fair bit. The other thing is that the rear brake mounts are definitely pretty poor. Not even remotely flat. Specialized, that is appalling. What are you doing? So doing this with the Park Tool diamond cutter because we're cutting directly onto carbon. Yet we charge extra for the diamond service. I'm not even joking, because those diamond cutters are a couple of £100 each. It's probably why manufacturers don't do this at factory. It only costs them too damn much. Okay, here it is, our translation of the build. Now you're probably looking at this going, what, that isn't built? Well, if you commission a custom build from us, or if you've done what this customer's done and bring us a frame and say, finish this off for us, this is how your bike will look when you come to collect it, because this is built enough to get you on a turbo trainer, and we'll do a bike fit to make sure we're 100% confident where we're going to cut that steerer, what stem length and what handlebar width you're going to come away with. So the build spec we went for then, you guys probably could have guessed. Classic, fast forward, right at 44s, perfect balance between weight and durability, super reliable, roll really well. Fitted these with Pirelli tyres. At the moment they've got tubes in there, but they'll probably be set up tubeless when the customer comes to collect. And of course, the Shimano Ultegra Di2 Group Set 12-speed, because right now it is being offered at such phenomenal prices, you just cannot argue with that. I think this is about 1,400 quid by the time we price matched, and most independent bike shops can price match as well. So Shimano offer us a price match guarantee. So if you find something online, go and ask your local bike shop. So as you see it here, with a set of pedals, I put a set of pedals on it, it's about 7.7 kilograms. You still need to add some bottle cages and some bar tape and bits and pieces like that. So still legitimately about 250, 300 grams lighter than my blade, as you'd expect, because that's where the frame price was. What's my opinion on the Specialized SL8? Well, the overall opinion was a couple of little disappointing build quality issues that I think only a bike shop like us would have really picked up, because when I was on my initial inspection, I really didn't notice it. And I think most bike shops would have just put that crankset through and just left it. And I'm really glad that I went back and just revisited and just put the shine on that a little bit. I don't think it would have caused any creaking, but I think we could have got a better frictionless spin out of that than doing what we did. Again, the rear brake was so obviously out that I think any bike shop should have been able to fix that. So it's slightly disappointed if you're going to be doing a home build that you still got to do some finishing touches, but nothing that a genuine bike shop shouldn't be able to do. Other than that, it's a great looking bike. It's definitely got some compromises where it's taken some weight off, and I think as long as you're aware of those and are happy with those, then yeah, nice bike. So there we go. If this has inspired you for your own custom build and there's something that you think we can help with, please get in contact with us either through the website contact us form, or give us a call at the shop, or just come and see us. We're open doors. Come in for a chat sometime. We'll always be happy to help. And if you like this sort of content, please give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing. Of course, get your comments down there below as well. Always like hearing your feedback. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Cheers.